you'll see in the chart. So I told you before that you're going to look at your chart and you're going to just get some impressions about the general sort of layout. I have a chart where it's called splayed, where all the planets are just scattered everywhere. There's very little concentration. And that's how my mind, my tendency has been. I have worked very, very hard to get to a place now where I know my vocation, I know who I am, I know what everything in my life leads to, but it took me, you know, all these years. And so I studied many things. My bachelor's is in journalism and advertising. Then as I was finishing that, I started nutrition. And then in the midst of studying nutrition, I decided to take this certificate in public health that led to become my first master's degree. And I started teaching in the college level at a very, very young age. Finished my nutrition degree, then started my PhD overlapping as I was graduating. Then as I was in my PhD or waiting to start, because I was pregnant with twins, I started the certificate in online teaching. I mean, so it's like constantly looking for something. My Saturn's in Gemini, so education is one of the pieces, because then I'll be smart. Then I will be sufficient. And everything just sort of was led. I didn't realize that that's what it was, but it was always like that. So I was actually planning on going away. My plan was to go to Australia. I told you guys yesterday, to study like exercise science or public health. Wasn't sure, but I was leaning more towards the exercise science. And then I get pregnant, get married. So I'm bedridden. I have these twins, I'm high-risk pregnancy. And I'm like, I have to do something, and I need to find a PhD program. And in the interim, I just got this certificate in online teaching, and then I started online teaching. That started a whole new career path for me. I was an online professor, faculty mentor, dean online for years, when online didn't even exist. And then I find, or it found me, this program at Barry University. I didn't even know what it was. First day of class, I'm in this family counseling class. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm doing? Okay. I had no clue. Just like Ayurveda. I heard the word Ayurveda talking to a client of mine, her brother or cousin or someone in Chile, and I heard that word and something happened. I call it my jelly bean. When something, I feel like this jelly bean just jumps in me and I just know. And I looked up Ayurveda and I found the school, and so I don't know. It just happened, but it makes sense from a practical standpoint, from the chart, because of the psychology, because psychology is a Pisces ruled profession. But it was all of that looking for that source. That's another addiction. Education is just another form of addiction.
It is.
Anything that's dogmatic, anything that keeps you enslaved, even if it's freedom, is dogma. And that's a limitation. That is a boundary that needs to be transcended. So what is Vedanta? Vedanta means the end of knowledge. You even have to transcend what you know, because there's nothing. Marion had earlier, what was it that you asked? That I said the example of, and I said, remind me. Oh, she made a comment about how long it took to get to this point. You know? And now there's more to do. And it's what I was showing you guys yesterday. If we come from source and we have to follow, just like developmentally, child, teenager, adult, when we finally become an adult is not physical, an adult is mental. My whole model is built on child, teenager, adult. So once you finally become an adult and meet your own needs, then you start the process back up, the involution, back up to source. That's what the Vedas knew. You have to become the household, you have to have the job, you have to have the car, you have to have the kids, and then you can come back around. So we can't skip a step. So I said to her, I'm like, all of those things were chiseling at the values that are not you, but that you identified as you. Now you're in the sort of field, this new green field, and now you can build what you want. So in the chakras and in the yogic tradition, when you meditate on different chakras, you're connecting to different, deities and everything. Every chakra has a deity. There's a thing called Ishvadevatar, and this is your god of choice. So I was telling you yesterday, in India, people have these tiny little puja rooms, and then they put their god of choice. Some people are Shiva devotees, some people are Ganesha devotees, some people are Hanuman devotees. That's my guy. And it's not anything but a version or a representation of God. It's God in form, sixth chakra. In the sixth chakra, when you meditate, you envision one version of God. It could be a crystal, it could be a sock, it doesn't matter. It's all God. We know this now, right? Because we have Sankhya. That is your form. But how do you get to transcendence? How do you get to the seventh chakra? You have to transcend the form. All forms of the form, the body, the mind, all of it. That means we have to let go of all of those values. We have to let go of everything. And that's what the chart shows you. So then you meditate in the seventh chakra on no form, on what's called the formless God. But as human beings, because of the mind, because it needs to be focused on one thing, we need a form. That's why we're like, oh, and the Shiva, because then I have a direction. So I was a type of person that didn't have that. I would hop and hop and hop. I mean, monkey mind, no wonder Hanuman is my God. And so what would happen is I started taking all of the pieces. That's when you find you. That's what I do with astrology. I call it archetypal astrology. I do archetypal astrology, ancestral astrology, or subconscious astrology. At the end of the day, whether I do a chakra reading, whether I do a healing on the table, whether I do astrology, where I do my model, it's shadow work, whether I do Akashic Records, I take you to the seed. That's my specialty. And so I finally was able to take all of that, the advertising, the nutrition, the public health, the Ayurveda, the online, everything, and find, and that's on the way up. That's the involution that we'll see. And that's what Saturn helps you do. That's why every single one of the Saturn cycles shows you for the next one, and for the next one, and for the next one. So it's not a waste. It's all learned so that you can be at this point. So now you're down, and now you start your involution back up. And it's age has to do with it. Yeah. It really does. We can't, I mean, there are obviously prodigies and things like that, and who is Shankara, 8 years old, was enlightened. I mean obviously he just had a tiny minuscule leftover from the previous incarnate, but most of us are not going to be that way, right? So it's just and so that's why I set up the model as child, teenager, and adult, because it's exactly that. We learn to meet our own needs. We learn that those value systems are no longer suiting us. And now we're a blank slate. Now in my Saturn, in my 7th house, with Gemini, I get to decide what that area in my life, that's my seed, gets to look like. I've transcended the chart. I've transcended the limitation. I've transcended the seed. Or knowledge. It's just knowledge. I haven't transcended shit. I'm just saying the knowledge of it. The rest of my life will be, let's not get carried away here too far. Let me put that back in the bottle. So, yeah, that's what I want to believe, but I ain't there. But once you can say, oh, so I have this saying, from the head to the heart. I'm going to teach you the logic and the knowledge, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah. But when you start living it and applying it, then it's in your heart. That's when it's in your heart. So that's when it's yours. That's why the heart space is in Ayurveda in the third month when the Hijayam is born. That's why being developed. That's why this is where you connect when you're doing this work. That is why you are with your client and you're present and you're be here now, because it's from this space. And if we go up the chakras, we see the elements. In the root chakra, you have earth. In the second chakra, you have water. In the third chakra, you have fire. And in the fourth chakra, you have air. So if air is that sort of vata, that mind that's, you know, a bit dissociated, so to speak, this helps. If you are working from here, you can help to make that exactly that single pointed focus. And then in the fifth chakra, you have the Akash. So that's where we work in that space. In the Chitta, there's various parts to the Chitta. But if you have the element of space and ether in here, this is where it's the divine will and the free will. This is where you're speaking your truth because it comes up. That's why so many of us have these issues. And then in the 6th and 7th, it's all of the elements. So this is in the formed state, all of these deities, all of these gods, whatever it is, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Shiva, whomever. And then here we've transcended, where we understand, we're back up. We understand that no matter if it's a rock, a crystal, a gun, it's all the same. So just like we work in our chakras that we build up from our safety needs, or we need basic, you know, grounding and basic family, tribe, first chakra stuff, and we grow up the chakras, we're growing up as we go up from the Panchamahabhutas up. But we end up in that seed. Are you guys, before we do that, quickly, because I don't want to spend too much time, but we can next time. Do you guys know the meaning of the Om symbol? The Om? The Om is related to the states of consciousness. So just briefly, you have your unconscious state here. It's like a veil. You have your waking state where you see this little loop, and you'll see this in astrology too with the Jupiter. You see this little loop. It's almost like I'm beyond the dream state or the unconscious state. Then you have a dream state. Then this here, this loop here, is Maya, is illusion. And the dot is the truth. The dot is the absolute state. So we have all of this to transcend the veils, one veil after the other, same concept, before we can get to the absolute state that is that bindi, that is the source, which is the unification of all. So this is sort of like that seed that stopped, that separation, that breaking off from the womb. So that's the symbolism of the Om, of what this means. So we have to transcend all of these states of consciousness to then get to that absolute state, which is why Vedanta is the end of knowledge. We have to transcend transcendence, as Joseph Campbell says. Joseph Campbell, mythologist, amazing, he passed, but, oh, give me a second. I don't know who he's quoting, but I quote him. Some mystic who said we have to transcend transcendence. For us, transcendence is Ayurveda, or the church, or a deity. We have to transcend all of that. That's what the Vedas were saying. The end of knowledge to get here. So that's the representation of that seventh chakra. That's why you saw Jesus with like the halo. Buddha, Jesus, those beings were able to transcend that. That's why they had no attachment to the body. They had no attachment to someone betraying them. We are so far from that. But we're working, we're here, we're trying. This is all part of getting to that. Yes?
What was number 3 and number 1 again?
Oh, so, well, it's not in order, but you have the unconscious state, in 3, because yours is number, and then I'll give you a cheat sheet on something that my teacher taught me years ago. Number 1, conscious state, your waking state. Number 2 is your dream state. And your 4th is Maya, or illusion. So you have to rotate through all those states before you can even reach this absolute state. I'll pass it around. Yeah, I'll pass it around. So my teacher, when I was in astrology, he used to talk about the 4 levels of consciousness, and it's like new, like you guys, this was new to me, you know, years ago, and I just learned it in different language, and then I started studying all the different traditions and saw how it all packaged up. So he would say that the sort of unconscious state was the level of a rock. Then the next state was the level of water. And the next state was the state of wine. And then the 4th state was the state of blood. So I always had that picture, and it made sense to me. So sometimes what I'll do, I'll notice, I'll be like, oh man, Francis, that was such a like rock sort of consciousness level, you know? Or, ooh, I was in wine that time, you know? So it helped me, so I put it on here. It's in Spanish though, but if you guys just want. So let me give you your charts. And I'm gonna give you this. Do not let me forget to overlap them because I forget. So first, let me tell you what astrology is. First of all, in my opinion, yes.
Mine's a day off.
It's a day off? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you can take a picture. I'll bring it up on the chart. And
Raina got my chart, or you have this chart?
oh, but it has her name on it?
Yeah.
Oh, but the information is right?
But mine is.
Oh, because you didn't tell me PM or AM. So I ran both in the email. She doesn't have a chart because she.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's yours.
This is
Yeah. So astrology, in my opinion, it will, we'll take a picture, is the best tool to understand yourself.
Really?
It is the best tool. The study of astrology is a study for life. Your birth chart has so much information that we will go through. I do an hour and a half reading, and we've scratched the surface of the surface of the surface. It's just, and then there's another chart that you superimpose, which is called the transits, which is what's happening now. So this is my description of astrology. First of all, it's you on a piece of paper. Second of all those symbols, those are planets. Those are archetypes. Those are psychological, those are the signs.
Oh.
I'm talking about the inner wheel with all those little,
Oh, this here.
no.
This.
Yes, those are the planets. So you have Sun, Mercury, Jupiter. All of those planets are in you. The cosmos is in you. The thing is that just like, you know, we might be able to see Jupiter and Venus in the sky, sometimes we can see your Jupiter in your behavior. You don't see everything at all times. For the most part, we're pretty, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, which one do I look at?
I don't know if you're an AM baby or a PM baby.
AM.
Okay, the one that says on the top, AM, 12:30 AM.
Thank you. Gotcha.
So those things are all in you. Like you go to work every day and you go to sleep, you don't think about your pancreas and your liver and your kidneys. You just don't until they're like, I'm sick and you have a kidney infection. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our mind. Same thing with our psyche. Now, what makes you all of a sudden want to get your hair cut or change jobs or change your sexual orientation? It is the transiting planets. They wake up the dormant parts of you. They wake up your kidney, give you an infection. They wake up your liver. They wake up your pancreas, but the parts of the mind. So all of those little planets are in you, but they're not always acting in you. You have some major ones. So when you study astrology, besides not only understanding your tendency, you have a tendency. You came in with a tendency, and that is who you are and who you will be in this temporary existence. What we want is the balanced state. It goes back to the moment of conception. What was your parents' prakruti? We wanted them balanced. Although it's a prakruti, it's not perfect. It's just perfect for that individual. Now you have your prakruti, and so this is it. But your tendency is your tendency is your tendency. Your nature is your nature is your nature. You are not going to get rid of that. I'm sure you've all heard of it. The Scorpio asked the frog to take him across the pond, and the frog says, no, you'll bite me. And he's like, no, I won't, I promise. And the frog is like, are you sure you're a scorpion? He's like, I promise, I promise, I promise. And the frog takes him, and he gets off the scorpion, and he pokes him. And he's like, why did you do that? He goes, because it's my nature. Your nature is your nature. That is going to be your sun sign primarily, but everything else in the chart. This is not a full-fledged astrology class, but I'm giving you certain things. So my nature is to be impulsive. Those 10 questions, I need to look at it every moment and ask my highest self and my lowest self, which is going to win. That is my breath. That is why I hold my breath. In a yogic practice, you have an inhale and you have an exhale, but you have a space. And if you can tap into that space, that's where you find God. So I get it every moment that I want to be impulsive, I get a space. My nature is to be impulsive, but I have a divine will. I have a choice. My divine will and my free will are in communion, and now I don't need to respond and tell you to screw off. That is how we grow. But your nature is your nature is your nature. That ain't changing. You will change that with quote-unquote hard work. That is all that spiritual work is. Has nothing to do with church or ashrams or veganism, none of that. It has to do with the moment that your tendency arises, what do you choose? Your highest self or your lowest self? That is it. All that other stuff is just practice to get to your graduation day. That's it. So astrology shows you all of your tendencies, and it shows you the 4 parts of the mind. So the 4 parts of the mind you have manas, you have buddhi, you have ahamkar, and you have chitta. The manas is like the external. I'm going to call it the child, and I'll show you that in the chart. The buddhi is like the rational intellect. This is what lets you create a space, that space between. That works with the chitta so that you can make the best choice. The ahamkar is the ego or the identity. And then your chitta is all stored memory, everything, past, present, future. This is where you have everything. This is going to be your moon. This is going to be your Mars. This is going to be your Mercury. And this, for the purposes of this class, is going to be your 5th house cusp. There's other ways to see all of this, but I want to single point it for you so that you have something that you could take away. So in the transits, which is what happens day to day, those archetypes are awakened. Those tendencies are awakened. So you're heterosexual your whole life, and all of a sudden, you break up your marriage and you go and you decide to be homosexual or bisexual. And you're like, what the hell is this? That was in your natal chart. That tendency was always there. You might have suppressed it. You might have swallowed it. You might have said those aren't my values. You might have watched lesbian porn and pretended you did it. That was there. You might have rejected homosexual people and marched against homosexuals. It came out some way, but you were in delusion and denial. And all of a sudden a transit shows up and boom, I want to be gay. And everyone's like flabbergasted. You have astrology, you're not flabbergasted. You're like, oh, this is me. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So not only does it really let you know yourself, it lets you know all of your parts inside. Gurdjieff, I mentioned him earlier, he said that we were like a bunch of just little eyes. Those are all the planets. So I have a smart eye, and I have a gay eye, and I have a manipulative eye, and I have a sweet eye, and a compassionate eye, and there's millions of these eyes in us. And at every moment, one eye shows up. That's why at work you're one person, and here you're another person, and in your family you're another person. It's like you can be away from your family for 5 years, you go home for freaking Thanksgiving, and all the shit comes up. Because your eye for that role shows up. That's why it's the eye. It's an identification with a role. And I told you yesterday that cancer is an identification disease with a role, an I, an ego. That's it. So these transits wake things up in us so that we come back to school, so that we get an illness, so that we make friends, so that we change our orientation, so that we move cross country. And your job is to understand your chart and know, oh, this is exactly what's supposed to be. Now, like everything else, every planet has a high expression and a low expression. Pluto is a planet of transformation and change. But Pluto is also power, control, manipulation. You are going to choose how that planet expresses. And how? The only thing you cannot see on a chart is the level of consciousness of the person. If you saw my chart and you knew astrology, you would think that I am an addict. That I'm a drug addict, an alcoholic, because I have so much Neptune, I have so much Pisces. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I do not have an addiction. Education was my addiction, but that wouldn't be like Piscean. My addiction is spirituality. My addiction was checking out into levels of consciousness in this sort of realm. Still an addiction, and I had to address that. The level of consciousness cannot be shown on a chart. That is a person's free will. So you are not doomed to anything. That's why it's the age-old question. Oh, it's all predetermined, so of course I have to be like that? Of course this happened? No. Because you have free will, and you get to choose your level of awareness and your level of consciousness. So which consciousness level are you going to behave at is going to be the expression in which that planet is going to vibrate. You're going to vibrate at a 1 or you're going to vibrate at a 10. That's your choice. The astrologer just tells you more or less this is what it's going to look like. You get to decide. Are you going to destroy your whole life? Or are you going to have a little midlife crisis and, you know, go take golf classes? And buy the Lamborghini or wear the Speedo or whatever. There's a very big gamut, very big spread of how a midlife crisis can go. That person's individual consciousness is what determines. That's why I have twins, and they can fully express differently the exact same chart. Because you have a different level of awareness, a little different level of consciousness, and they bring in lived experiences that's stored in the Vasana Chitta from past lives that are going to all inform. So Hitler could have expressed his hierarchy in a very different way. That's why, yes, we can analyze charts, and we do, of all these types of, you know, people that are famous and sociopaths, but it's that person's free will and level of consciousness that decides how it is going to be expressed. But your tendency is your tendency is your tendency. But at every moment, just like with every breath, you get to choose. So we are not victims. And so the chart is just something amazing Because at every moment, in every phase in your life, like, okay, that's what's coming. How am I going to handle it? What's my attitude going to be with it? How am I going to prepare for this? And the best part, my favorite part, that's where I spend most of the time with my clients, is when I do transits, is I go back. My astrology teacher used to say, tell me what you bought at Publix today and I'll tell you what you're going to have for dinner. Every single thing you are living is based on what you did in past action, what you bought at Publix. If you bought carrots and corn, you're having carrot and corn soup. You're not having steak. And that's what I think is the best part with astrology. First of all, the subconscious part that is the natal chart that we'll look at today. And then in the transits, when someone is like, but why is this happening to me? Why did my boyfriend cheat on me? Well, when were you the perpetrator? Let's go back and look. It's real easy. It's math. It's math. Okay? So let's start. Let me just get Ken. So what is it? The 5th?
Yeah.
Okay, here, come. Take a picture.
What are those symbols again?
Okay, so the 5th house cusp will be your manas. Okay, so what is manas?
No, I mean just the symbols.
Oh, Mercury, Mars, and the moon. This is like a very, very, very rough sketch. So the first thing I want you to do is look at your chart and just see what you see. Like, do you see planets spread out? Do you see them clustered? Do you see a certain house? They're numbered. The houses are numbered. That has an excess of planets in it, and then is the opposite house just as balanced, or is it out of balance? I remember something from Carolina, so I'm going to start with you. What do you see? Where does your eye go? So
Everywhere. I'm sorry, these are my planets.
Yes, we're looking at the planets.
I see that I'm very like clustered in certain areas and then like space in between here.
Okay, where does your eye go?
Like which planet?
Yeah, where? Where in the chart are you, is your focal point?
I don't know, this caught my attention the first time I saw it.
The Mercury up top?
Yeah.
Interesting. What about your 7th house with that big cluster?
Where, I don't know, where's that?
It says number 7 is to the left. They're all numbered, 1 to 12.
This one?
No, number 7.
Here?
Yes.
Yeah. What do I see that catches my attention?
Well, when you look at a piece of paper and you have a big cluster of stuff, usually our eye is focused on something. So to me, I see that, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of concentrated energy. That's just me, I'm not saying it's you.
Yeah.
Your eye went to the Mercury, that's okay, that makes sense. I mean, you're so logical and stuff, and that corresponds with your moon. Who else? Do you see anything in your chart? Are you spread out? Are you clustered?
These two are perfectly opposite.
Of course you would see that. Let's see. Which two?
So I just happen to know North Node and South Node.
Okay, so the North Node and the South Node, yeah, those are always going to be perfectly opposite, but that's where your eye went to that equal distribution.
And then
Okay.
whatever is next to it, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so she was very drawn to the sort of linearness of the nodes. The nodes are exactly opposite. Carolina was drawn to her Mercury, the logic. Who else? There's no right or wrong answer. Sonia?
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the correct one. So I'm going to show it to you. Is this the 12:30 in the afternoon? 12 to 12:30?
This is AM.
It's in the morning.
So the other one is the PM. So are you a PM baby?
I was born in the afternoon, not in the evening of 12. Not
In the
12.
morning?
12:30 PM, when the sun is highest. And you're a 10th house sun and that's your chart.
That's
So cute.
So So what do you see in your chart that pops out? Let me bring it up.
PM.
There's a big cluster in 9 and 8.
There's a big cluster now. Your whole chart is in 9 and 8. Absolutely. Okay. So that's going to be a very big, important focal point. What else? Jennifer?
I have a cluster where the sun sign is near that.
Yes. Okay. In the first house. Okay. So when we have a cluster, that's called a stellium, and Jen has those three. You were going to say something else? Oh. Whenever you have like that type of cluster, that means that there's a lot of emphasis and energy in that space. So if you know nothing about astrology, nothing, and you see a cluster of planets in a space, you know that that person, your client, has energy focused in that area.
So is this a cluster here?
Yes, a big one, and very intense planets to boot. So, but you didn't want to see it.
What?
You didn't want to see it. She didn't want to see that.
This is my first time ever looking at a chart like this, so I...
Oh, no, of course. No, this is a completely foreign thing. I'm just doing an activity to show you that where we oftentimes want to go where we want to go.
So this is a cluster?
Yeah, you have stelliums in 8 and 9.
Cluster is the amount of planets and numbers? Is that what it is?
Yeah, forget the numbers.
Just the planets?
Yeah, the number of planets that are clustered together, that's a stellium when there's like 3 or more. But that is a focal point of energy for a person. So Marion pointed out the nodes, which isn't exactly that. But do you have, what's the opposite sign, house of the 7?
1.
The 1. Do you have anything in there?
No.
No, so you have to have an imbalance between you and others. Your identity and your identity dealing with others. You and relationships. It's out of balance. So when you see a cluster, this is just for the psychology of the client. If nothing else, just look at where they have a cluster, and off the opposite side, if there isn't an equal, like a teeter-totter, you know that that part of it, there's a lot of energy. I will send you a little thing with the meaning of the houses, so you have brief and the moon signs and stuff like that.
Okay, so what does a house mean?
A house is where that energy is going to play out.
So that area where it's 9 is house 9.
Exactly. And so all of those planets, all of that part of your psychology is going to play out in your spirituality, in higher learning, in long distance travel, and going abroad, and looking for a philosophy of life, maybe religious purposes. But if nothing else, just, I'm going to give you tidbits so that you could use it as a tool with your clients. Look for clusters. Look for places where there's out of balance, because that person is going to be out of balance. So Carolina has to have question number 7, the question about, am I people pleasing or am I doing it for myself? Because the 7th house is the house of others. And she has no balance in that part of her chart. It's too intense on top of that.
That's pretty accurate.
So if nothing else, you know, this person comes with this.
So
these are just tidbits, people. This is a lifetime study, so don't get it in 2 hours. We're not. Yes, Ken.
So is 8 versus 5 too much of an imbalance?
8 goes with 2.
I got 8 planets and 2.
and 7.
And then I've got
a lot more than me.
5 and 8.
Okay, so Ken has a very interesting chart. His entire chart is what these houses 1, 7, 2, 8, 3, 9, they're called axis. Okay? So when I said what's the opposite house, you went right with your finger and you saw it was 1. His entire chart is in the 2-8 axis. He's got heavier 2nd house than 8th house, but the entire chart is concentrated in the 2-8 axis. That means his entire life is on the axis of values.
Yep.
The entire chart is about the axis of values. The 2nd house is all about my material things and my values. And the 8th is what material things I share with the other and what values I share with the other. So he has to have existential crises. Because his entire life is about a value system. What's my values? Am I following my values? Are these my values? Are they not my values? Whose values are I follow? That has to be your entire life. So a chart like that, I mean, that's just, you can see. So it looks balanced because it's in the 2-8, but it's so much energy that this mind can't go anywhere but there. So you see how people, so in mine, it's splayed. You don't know where to start with me. Now I'm better, like I said, towards involution. I didn't know what I was going to study. I studied everything. Spaz.
What if you don't have clusters?
Then you're exactly that. There's an element of a splay. There's an element of being spread thin. It's just something tactile, so you can get the energy of the person. We're not going to go into it today, but if you look at all the symbols, they have colors: blue, aqua, brown, red. Those are the elements. So those are your Panchamahabhutas. You can count up the red, that's fire. You can count up the air, the aqua, that's air. You can count up the dark blue, that's water. You can count up the brown, and that's earth. You do that on your own. If you want to count up those elements, it'll tell you the client. If someone has too much earth, they're too stable, they're too rigid, they're too kapha, that's going to be a vitiation. They're too concentrated, they're too stubborn. They have too much fire, they're going to be excessively pitta. They're going to bulldoze through things, they're going to be very quick and smart, but they're going to burn, like me. Burn through it. Next, not enjoy anything. They have too much water, they're drowning in their emotions. And they have too much air, oh my God. They can't sit still.
Like all the symbols or just the hour one?
The ones that are inside.
Circle? Inside the circle?
Here.
Uh-huh.
Okay, each of those have a red, a brown, an aqua, or a blue. Okay? That's for more, but I'm just giving you a tidbit. If you have and you want to go that route and figure that out, I'm giving you that extra. That's how you can see the elements in the chart. So if someone has I have a lot of water. I am emotional. I live in my second chakra. I live in my astral body. I live in the emotions. That is my defect. That is my issue. So when you can see, just add up the elements, right off the bat, you see the distribution of the Panchamahabhutas just in a second. So you see that you have access to your fingertips so quickly. Okay? So I want you to find house number 5. Okay? Now, the line that's to the left, those lines are called cusps. That is how the energy is channeled through. Okay? So the cusp of the 5th house is going to represent your manas.
I don't have anything with this.
You do, you just don't know it.
Okay.
Okay, we have everything everywhere. So your 5th house cusp is Taurus, so write that.
Okay.
Your 5th house cusp is Aquarius. Your 5th house cusp is Gemini. Your 5th house cusp is Libra. Your 5th house cusp, I can't see, let me check it on the computer. Your 5th house cusp is Gemini. Reina, Gemini. Oh, so several Geminis here. No wonder we're all study buffs. Okay. Manas is like a child. It's the impulse. It doesn't think. It wants what it wants. It goes after it. There is no logic or buddhi or rationalization. Okay? That is how you're going to show up. That's how you're sort of going to show up in the world impulsively. The 5th house happens to be the house of children, so people come and are going to have a child. The house of love, the house of investments, gambling, entrepreneurship. It's the house of sort of your individuation, but it's not controlled. It's like a freak show. The baby wants the M&Ms, wants the Hershey Kisses. If you let a kid in the candy store, the kid would eat all the junk. There's no parent there to control. That is your reactive self. That is your manas. That is your connection to the senses. There's other things, but I'm boiling it down to one thing so you can leave with this information. Okay? This is what's indecisive in you. The mind, the manas mind, this is super important, has no discrimination. In the yogic path, what is it? Viveka, right discrimination. That is what happens with the buddhi. So if we cannot discriminate, we're just going to take whatever, whenever, however. This is what keeps us externally focused. Our manas and our fifth house cusp. It's our child, our untamed child. So Taurus. Taurus is stubborn, Taurus is rigid, Taurus is attached to values or material or the body or the way of doing things. This is the way I've always done it, so this is the way I'm going to do it. I've never been a victim, and I'm going to continue telling you for 8 hours today that I'm not a victim. And we all have Taurus in our chart. That's the beauty of astrology. We're all equal. Everyone has a Pluto, everyone has a Sun, everyone has a Mars. No one's better than anyone. It's the expression of how you express that Taurus. But since we're talking fifth house, that's what we're looking at. Marian has Aquarius. Aquarius is logic and science and rational.
Hey!
So it doesn't matter what activity we do. It doesn't matter, I don't know your chart. It doesn't matter. You are constantly showing up with you.
I can't help myself.
Well, you can, and that's when we make the decision using the combo of the buddhi and the chitta to override that. But that's the spiritual growth. That's change. If we are just living impulse like animals, our manas is in control. The senses have us. Think of a child. The terrible twos. We are all terrible twos when it comes to the manas. And the sign on that cusp shows us how we do it. So when you are so logical, rational, and you don't listen to your gut, you're in your terrible twos. Jennifer, what sign did you have on your cusp?
Gemini.
Gemini. All of you are Gemini? You, Carolina, too?
Libra.
Oh, okay, so the three of you had Gemini. So Gemini has to do with the seeking of intellect. I'm not smart enough. Going to the logic in a different way than Aquarius. They're both air signs and they both have to do with the mind, but these are dual minds. Flip-flopping, indecision, sexuality. It could be a question of sexuality too. Not being able to choose, so I choose both. Or I try this one on and I try that one on. That would be a placement. I have clients, I have this one particular woman, older woman, and she struggles with her sexuality. And she's like, am I gay? Am I gay? Because she was married and then she has, you know, lesbian lovers. And I showed her various places in the chart where it validates. So she's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be, you know. So a lot of people come because they want to validate that they're who they are. And that's what the best thing about the chart. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. No one made a mistake. Nothing was wrong. It's your expression, it's your jivatman. And that is that right there. It's beautiful. So Gemini, sign of duality. That's why I said to her yesterday, you must have a strong placement of Gemini. Because that need, I have Saturn in Gemini, so I recognize it. That need for clarity, transparency, authenticity, the truth, is because somewhere in ourselves, there's the inability to grasp that. We don't say, think, do, feel. We're self-betraying, we're being dual, we're behaving a way that isn't to our authentic selves. And if you have all that in the 9th house, that has to create a real big struggle internally, because your 9th house is the desire for truth. You have a lot in there. But your inner child, your 2-year-old temper tantrum, manas baby, is saying, I want to say this, but do that, and think this, and feel this, and I want to shit, but no, give me a lollipop. So there's a struggle with that. And so one of the ways that people, and you guys happen to have it on the 5th, I don't have it on the 5th, I have it on my 7th, but in one of the ways that we solve the problem is by studying. Because if I know enough, I'll be able to have enough information to solve why I'm so freaking indecisive. One teacher one day might give me the book that's gonna answer my life question. So here we are. It's amazing. Libra.
That's my mom's son.
Libra, it goes and that's what you'll learn about astrology. There's different caliber, like in any profession, of astrologers. The astrologer should be able to get you to your seed. No matter what thread they pull, they should see you and your seed and your theme. That 7th house is very heavy, and your 1st house is empty. It's not empty, but it looks empty to you. The 7th house is about others, and the 1st house is about herself. Libra is the sign of the 7th house, and Libra is a sign of others. So her child shows up when she's serving others and pleasing others and the others and the others and the others. So the more sacrifice, the less of me and the more of the other, then I must be a good person, because she's all about good and bad, especially with that Virgo moon. So it's about being good. So every time you say good, no good, no bad. That's a judgment. And you have very strong pillars of what you consider good and bad, and you need to destroy those, because there's no such thing. What did I tell you? There's no good or bad action. It's what. What is...
If it's aligned with your...
It's the thought, exactly.
Thoughts and your voice.
It's the thought that is propelling the action. Because you can come over to my house and clean my house and say, oh my God, I did such a good deed. But if you thought for a second, this is such a piece of shit, that's it. Your good deed is undone. It is the thought that motivates the action that determines, quote unquote, the good or bad. That's why there's no such thing as something good or bad. But this world, we have columns, we have duality, we have deemed things good and bad. And look at the girl who runs the yoga studio, who goes to India, who this and that, and she cannot get in touch with her creative force. She cannot get in touch with her own issues. An hour and a half of a session, and 5 minutes before she goes, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I haven't had sex in 7 years. What truth is that person living? So you can do all the actions, but obviously there's a disconnect. It's the incongruence. And Gemini is that incongruence. And you have that very strong child of pleasing the other. So you got to watch the codependence, you got to watch the people pleasing, you got to watch that you have no identity, or my favorite reference, The Runaway Bride. Do you become the other?
I run away.
In The Runaway Bride, I love that movie. Because one of the things that Richard Gere did when he started interviewing the men that she left at the altar, he would say, so how does she like her eggs? He had this concept down pat. Whoever wrote that movie knew psychology. Oh, she likes him just like me, Eggs Benedict. Oh, she likes him just like me, over easy. He saw right there, he pulled. She has no identity of her own. And that's the Libra. Wherever you have Libra in your chart, you have that. We all have this. That's why I can say to her, I happen to be there, we're talking about the 5th house, but every single one of us has codependence, delusion, addiction, manipulate. We're equals, people. We're equals. Same, but different. So that's the manas, okay? The booty. The booty is the logic and the rational, okay? But it's also the discrimination. This is one of my major spiritual principles. I'm thinking it's Viveka. I'm having a difficulty remembering the Sanskrit word, but I think it's Viveka. Right discrimination. If I give you soup right now, are you going to drink it with a fork?
No.
No. That's your booty, that's your intellect, that's your right discrimination. But you know that from something practical and silly. But you may not necessarily know that in decisions that are good for you. That's one of the reasons that we talk about the Dinacharya, the seasonal routine. You gonna eat ice cream in the winter? I love eating ice cream in the winter. Everyone's like, what? The colder it is, the more ice cream I want. Wrong discrimination. That's not good for me. So we have the knowledge from the seasonal perspective and from the body perspective, but let's take it to things in our life. Let's take it to major life decisions when we've overstepped our stay at a job for 6 years. When we're in a relationship that's toxic, but we keep making excuses. We all do this. We don't have right discrimination. So we don't allow the buddhi and the chitta, which is where everything is stored. That's why you know that you need a spoon. That's why you know that it's a soup. First day of class, and I gave you a marker and said, what is this? And you said a marker. That comes from your chitta. It's stored in the chitta, but the buddhi recollects it. They work together. But the buddhi has the right discrimination. So there's this beautiful myth. So I'm a myth buff, and myth to me, any tradition, most of my knowledge comes from the Greek and Roman tradition. And you'll see in your homework, I give you a little sentence about Vishnu and one of the myths of Vishnu. In the Greek mythology, Roman mythology, there's a myth of Cupid and Psyche, which is interesting. Cupid, love, Psyche, mind. Who falls in love with their mind here? You see a man or a woman? No one. It's the irony of that mythology. So, myth of Cupid, love, blind love, because he's blind. We know that love is blind and Cupid shows up blindfolded. And Psyche, the mind. So, there in the story, Cupid's mom, Aphrodite, says, hey, go shoot Psyche with the poison arrow, and he doesn't want to because he's in love with her. Whoever gets shot with the poison arrow will be in love with the object of the affection. And Cupid was in love with her. So he's like, I'm going to prick myself so I can be even more in love with her, because he was head over heels for her. So they would meet night after night, and they would make love, but he would never let her see his face. So one night, the mind comes with an oil lamp and wants to light him up and see, and she ends up burning him. And he runs away, and he's like, we can never be together. Because the idea is that gods and mortals shouldn't be together. But as punishment, because in every myth there's a punishment, because there's a lesson, Aphrodite gives her 4 tasks. But the first and most important task is that she separate the grain from the seed. And this is called separatio. In alchemy, in the philosophy of alchemy, so you can have alchemy, Hermetic philosophy, astrology, Ayurveda, all of these truths are the truths. The first thing you do when you are going to move from lead to gold, walk through that Saturn, grow, is you need to separate things and organize them and know the discrimination. And so the first task that she was given so that she can repent was to separate the grain from the seed. And this is known as separatio, or right discrimination. How do you know right from wrong? Isn't it interesting that even though we come from source and we know that everything is that God source, we still in this world need to separate good from bad, harmful from not harmful. That's the crisis of the duality and the unity. So Carolina isn't wrong in wanting to say something is good and bad and discriminate and put it into, categories. She happens to have a Virgo moon, and Virgo moon is the moon of discrimination. So it's all about good and bad for you. Everything is a judgment. That's a Virgo thing. And we all have Virgo somewhere. We have opposite Virgo gens, so we have a lot of that because it's on our way to becoming Pisces. But that being said, we do need to discriminate. We do need to recognize that there are some good and bad things. The thing is, we don't do it right. Because yesterday when you did your values, you're holding yourself up to values that aren't even yours. So the discrimination needs to come from, what are my values? Not what are my parents' values, not what are my